Hi, I'm Keith Cooper of Northlight Images, and in this short video I'm going to talk about colour management. Colour management can be a very complex subject, but it doesn't have to be. There are lots of different aspects of colour management that impinge on your photography, particularly if you do printing, but the whole workflow from taking the photograph through to printing or just viewing it on a screen is all affected by your choices of colour management. The question I get asked a lot is, how much of this stuff do I actually need? And depending on what it is you actually want to do, it turns out that there are some bits which are essential and some bits which are nice to have, and some bits are, well, just fun to do if you really want to, but you probably don't really need to, unless you're working professionally at a fairly high end and stuff, when you can afford all this kit anyway. So what should we start off with? Well, here's a monitor. This is a very good monitor. It's a BenQ 32-inch SW320. It has an Adobe 98 gamut, wide gamut, displays a lot of colours. It's very accurate, it's very good. Even out of the box, it's very accurate. Every photo I take for my work, every print I make is viewed on my screen. So really I don't want to skimp on the screen. So I ideally want a good quality screen. It doesn't have to be a huge great thing like this. It doesn't have to be at quite this level of specification, but certainly a good screen is essential certainly for my work. When I've got the screen, I need to calibrate it. Now, calibration is setting the screen to a known state, and your colour management software, most of which, by the way, goes on invisibly behind the scenes on your computer. You really don't think about it most of the time. It's what makes a display work, it's what makes printers work. But when you do have to think about it, there are a few little adjustments and various things you can do. So, first of all, I've got a good screen. I want to calibrate that screen. I want to set it to a known point. Now, because I'm videoing this, I've set this monitor to a fairly low colour temperature. It's part of a soft proofing setup that BenQ have with this that I have looked at briefly, but I'll not go into here. I've just reduced the colour temperature of the monitor to make it a bit more visible on the video, which is set to the colour temperature of the room here, which is probably about 3100 K. I've dropped the colour temperature of this just purely to make it a bit more visible. However, calibration. You need one of these. This is an i1 Display Pro. There are quite a few different versions of calibrators. You don't need to get the absolute best to get good results, because what you'll often find is that the better calibrators are the same basic measuring device, which just measures the screen and produces a profile and calibrates your monitor. You don't need the very best quality of software because they're all the same device. And the options you get in the higher end packages, more expensive packages, are often things you probably won't need. And I've got reviews of loads of these bits of kit on the Northlight Images website. Goes into stuff in quite a bit of detail, but this is just an overview. So yes, you do need a calibrator, but you don't need to spend a fortune on one. Similarly, worrying about the settings to use for your monitor, take the defaults. If you don't know why you would want to change from the default settings, take that as a pretty strong hint that you probably don't need to. Either that or you need to get a book on colour management and learn a load more about it. It's entirely up to you. But one of these will measure your screen and produce a profile for it. The profile tells the computer software what the characteristics of the screen are. Calibration sets your screen to a known standard, a known brightness, a known point. So we've set that up. We've set up the screen. What else do I need? Well, if I'm printing, I need to make colour profiles for my printer and my paper. What do I? Turns out that most printers these days, certainly if you start off with the original equipment manufacturer's papers, so Canon papers on a Canon printer, Epson papers on an Epson printer, you'll get good results using the profiles that they supply. Many third-party paper suppliers will produce profiles as well, and some, if you buy some paper off them, will even make custom profiles for you. Now the profile is what adapts between the colours of your image and what's going to be printed. Think of it as a sort of translation. I've done a short video about printer profiles and what they do, but they are essential steps in getting good, reliable print results. Now, the question I often get asked is, how do I match my screen to my print? Well, you can't, essentially. One is reflecting light, one is emitting light. And basically they're different, so you're never going to get them the same. The absolute worst way to check your print against a screen is to put it up to the monitor like that and just try and check like that. It will rarely work. You need good lighting to view your prints. And also when you're editing, if your screen's too bright, then your prints may well come out a bit too dark. In fact, the most obvious, most common problem of people when they get prints coming out too dark is that their screen's too bright. So they overcompensate one way and it comes out as dark prints. But anyway, printing is another matter which I'll go into. But essentially I'm saying, yes, you need printer profiles, but you don't need to make them yourself. You don't need to make them yourself? Well, you can. This is a i1 Studio. It follows on from X-Rite's Color Monkey, very similar device. This one's a spectrophotometer. It allows you to print out coloured targets. You print out the coloured targets and you measure them with this device. It's a USB device run through the software and it generates you a printer profile. Well, there you go. Who needs more? You've made your own printer profiles. The only problem is that it's quite likely that the printer manufacturer and even the paper company that's provided you with profiles has far better kit and far better software than this. So why would you want to make your own profiles? Well, that's a question I ask a lot of people when they say, well, they want to buy one of these or something more expensive. They are useful. You can learn a lot about printing in making your own profiles, but it's something that you do because you want to do, not always because you have to do. Certainly these days where printers are a lot more consistent and reliable. 15 years ago, making your own print profiles, that was a really good step in getting good print quality. Now with printers a lot better and the wide availability of printer profiles, something like this is less useful. Now, you can use this for all kinds of other things. You can use this for measuring the screen to replace one of these, so you can use it for calibrating the screen. And there are a few other things you can do with it as well. But I have numerous reviews of this and more advanced equipment as well. So there you go. We've got a monitor. We've calibrated a good monitor. We've used that. We're using printer profiles to get the best printer results. You may or may not choose to make your own printer profiles. Why not? It's fun to do, but don't let it distract you from the real problem that most photographers face in getting prints that they don't like, is that the photographs aren't good enough. How do you take better photographs? Well, you take more photographs. How about colour management for cameras? This is one I get asked a lot. Here's a colour checker card that I take with me on most jobs. I can, by taking a photograph of this target here, create a camera profile. I can think, ah yes, printer profiles, monitor profiles, camera profiles. Why wouldn't I want to do a camera profile? Well, it turns out that it's far more difficult to get meaningful results from a camera profile than it is from a monitor profile or a printer profile. I'd go so far as to say that for most photographers, most times, making camera profiles is a waste of time. Why do I take this with me then on most of my jobs? Because I do shoot in different types of lighting. I change my lighting from time to time, and also I work in conditions with variable lighting, so in factories and the like. by taking a photograph of this and making a camera profile, I can know that I'm getting accurate colour. Now it's also for studio photography where you match it up for the camera to your lights. If you're doing product photography, you want to make sure that the colours are correct and that you don't get them the wrong way around, because if you do get them the wrong way around, it shows. However, the most important part of this is not this coloured part, it's that. It's a grey card. Take a photograph of that grey card, white balance your camera, and most of the time you'll get much better looking results when you process your image. Shoot RAW as well, because that gives you the ability to do the adjustments, which you wouldn't necessarily be able to do otherwise. So there you have it. We have camera colour management, nice occasional uses for it. I don't bother most of the time. Monitor colour management, absolutely essential. Printer colour management, vital to get good quality prints. Making your own profiles, fun on occasions, but I wouldn't necessarily want to do it all the time. It's interesting, I do it in all my printer reviews, really just to show the characteristics of the printer, but fun, but I wouldn't necessarily buy one. So there you have it. There's colour management in a nutshell, and that's all you need to worry about. Now, I'm going to have a lot more dipping into details of this, but this is an outline that tries to answer that question, should I bother? So yes, but don't go overboard on it. Hope that's been of use. Do check out the other videos on the channel. Subscribe please if you find it interesting, and also do check the Northlight Images website, because I've been writing articles there for years and there's loads of detailed stuff about colour management and various things you can use for it. So thank you very much.